welcome everyone to another leadership roundtable. As you could tell by our backgrounds, we are retroactively celebrating Pursuit's sixth year anniversary. Give it up. Put some emojis in the comments in the live chat. But guys, why did you choose your background? Let's start there.
We weren't ready for this question.
Yeah.
We weren't ready for this question.
What was the motivation for the background you chose? Danny, let's start with you.
Kevin. Start with me? Yeah, Danny, let's start with you. Danny.
Yeah, do you like minions or?
Okay, honestly, this is my honest answer. Kevin first put up a background of the birthday. So I was like, you know what? Let me go on Google search and let me look up happy birthday. But whenever I looked up happy birthday, it was a generic one, like the ones that you find at the CVS and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I want to make this fun. Yeah, so I put up happy birthday fun wallpaper. The first one that came up was this one, the Minions.
Yeah, I hope they don't copyright us. Just a thing happen. All right, Kevin, what about you?
So it says it is your birthday, but this is actually a scene from The Office, and I like The Office. So when I initially said let's do virtual backgrounds, this was actually the first thing I thought of. So that was my motivation.
Kevin's a creative, funny man.
Kevin's Toby from The Office.
Yeah, it's because I'm Toby from The Office.
HR.
All
right, Josh, why did you choose Kobe on the toilet?
All right, guys, I chose Kobe on the toilet only because PCM had Michael Jordan on his virtual background.
Kobe.
So it was a rebuttal to my background.
Yeah, so it was a rebuttal to your background.
So I did MJ. Obviously, Last Dance is happening, but because it's our 6th year, I wanted to have Jordan putting up the 6.
Yes.
So, I can't believe it. The series is over tomorrow, but anyways, as always, I thought it would be fun to start with some icebreaker questions. I don't even know how to do icebreaker questions or how to transition from it, but I thought it would be fun to do this or that type of questions. I guess you guys know the concept, right? I mean, hopefully.
Yeah.
You choose one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Would you rather be known for your writing or for your speaking?
Ooh.
For your reading.
Yes, can that be an option?
Would you rather be known for your speaking or for your writing? Like if
I would
you're
rather
renowned.
be known. Yeah, I would rather be known for my speaking because I don't really like writing. So, and I don't know. I feel like speaking is just. I think for me, it's a more natural way to communicate, and I actually am more inspired by speaking pieces more than writing pieces. So that's my answer.
Wow.
Speaking or writing? I'll go. If I personally enjoy speaking more, but if I'm going to be considered world class and renowned and like known for it, I'd rather be known for my writing. Because you've never heard J.K. Rowling. Is that her name? The woman?
Yeah.
You've never heard her speak, but Harry Potter is worth billions.
Wow. True.
That's
right?
true.
So if I'm famous for something, I think writing, you're able to influence more too.
Right. Writing is forever, I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Friends hang out sometimes. Banners hang forever. Shout out to Josh's wallpaper. But yeah, I think maybe it's a selfish reason as to why I would choose writing. What about you guys?
Dang, I should have gone before. Because I want to say that. Dang it. I think right now, if I'm being honest, right now I would want to be known for speaking. In the future, in my 50s and 60s, definitely for my writing though.
Danny has a decades planned out.
Decades.
Decades.
40-year plan.
Dang. I would say no for my speaking because I feel like it's easier to capture emotions through speaking than through writing. And I think, man, if I want to leave an impact on people, then I think speaking is the way to go than writing.
Wow.
Yeah, so our team is divided into writers and speakers. But yeah, that's the first one. So known for either writing or speaking. Staying within that theme, physical book or an ebook?
Physical all the way for me. Physical all the way.
Why?
I need to write on it. I need to write on it. I need to highlight it. I need to be able to leave like small notes. And I found that to be a little difficult with ebooks.
Yeah.
Because you can't write on an ebook.
Because you can't write on it.
You can write on the Kindle. We got you. I think I would choose physical book too. Like if I could only have one for the rest of my life, I just think it's easier to read or for me to keep on reading it. Whereas an ebook, I mean, it's cheaper and then you could carry like 1,000 with you wherever you go and it's more convenient. But I think there's just something to having a paper and highlighting that. And yeah, that's why I would choose physical.
I'm gonna do the, what do you call it, devil's advocate, whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm gonna go the opposite way. I'm gonna choose top of the cream. Anyways, I'm gonna choose an ebook. I'm gonna choose an ebook because I like the fact that when I'm leaving somewhere, I can literally take one device and it has different things that I'm reading all at once. One of my biggest things that I hate is I hate putting physical books in my bag and then having the edges or the pages rip or crumble. I can't stand that. I have to like either make sure I'm like taking care of that book really well, but with an ebook, you can just throw it in there and that's fine. I also found that with an ebook, you can export your notes and your highlights really easily. So instead of going through my physical book and trying to find notes here and there, it's like just easier to export it all at once.
Oh wow. I guess I haven't been using the ebook correctly. Because I've never heard of those things. But
what's the website for Kindle? It's like kindle.amazon.com.
Yeah, something
that
like
has
that.
all like your notes.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was gonna choose physical book too, just because of like the writing and being able to write notes. Actually, no, I'm still gonna choose physical book because you could lend it to people, but you can't lend ebooks.
Wow, so selfish.
No, you can, but they only have 14 days to read the book before they expires.
Oh, really?
Oh, you could lend ebooks, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let me know. Let me know what books you guys want to read. I'll lend you if I have. We learn new things all the time. All right, here's another one: ocean or mountain. Let's set the scene. You are going away for like a weekend personal retreat. Would you rather go to the mountains or would you rather go to the ocean?
That's tough.
This one's easy for me, personally. I would choose mountains all the way.
Oh.
Why is it so easy for you?
I just don't like oceans. I mean, there's really nothing to do, you know? Unless you have a significant other. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what you're saying.
It's a personal retreat. So we don't know.
Oh, it's personal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I have a significant other, but I don't know what you're saying.
But Danny is easily mountain.
Easily mountain.
I'm trying to think.
I would choose ocean because I mean I feel like I just normally like beaches more than I guess mountains. But then also I thought of like sleeping in a mountain. It just sounds scary to me. So ocean.
Yeah, I used to be oceans all the way too, until I went to. You guys ever heard of Lake Tahoe in like Cali and Nevada? Like it's pretty famous, whatever. But I went there this past year, and it changed my mind about mountains. There's like something really, really, really nice about mountains. But I'm gonna choose oceans because I think by the ocean, there's better restaurants and food, and I think that's more important for my personal retreat.
Yo, that's true.
Rather than having to cook on my own.
Yeah,
You're right.
Dude, you're bringing in other factors.
Yeah.
Game changer.
I'm trying to think too. I mean, I think there's something awesome about hearing like water, like being near water. So I guess if you go to like Lake Tahoe, you get both best of both worlds, where you get a body of water and a mountain. But yeah, I guess I would choose mountains too. Just because because I feel like every ocean is pretty uniform in the sense that like most beaches are kind of similar, but then mountains. And he's very passionate.
Yo, it's not a fight day.
He's very anti-oceans. I actually never knew this about Danny.
I hate that worship song, Oceans. What'd you say?
You probably use plastic straws, Danny.
I use chopsticks.
What? Team plastic, team chopsticks. But yeah, I think mountains, if you go, they could be a lot more unique. So depending on where you go. So I think that's why I would choose that. All right, one last one. I had another one, but I don't think I'm gonna ask it because it's going pretty long right now. How you could only have one for the rest of your life. Netflix or YouTube. And then don't do like answers like, oh, I'll have Amazon Prime or something like that. Right? Those other things don't exist. So strictly just Netflix or YouTube.
I'll choose YouTube so that I could watch the leadership roundtables.
Every Saturday night. Is that I think that's clap worthy, Kevin. If I do clap on the Zoom, does it show up on the YouTube?
It should. I think so.
I think on your screen probably.
Yeah, but I don't know. Let us know if you saw it or not. All right, so
I bet YouTube just has way more content. Yeah, than Netflix.
I choose Netflix because I feel like I need to have good movies to watch every now and once in a while. Yeah.
I choose YouTube because I don't like Netflix. I don't know why. I just like YouTube.
You have a specific reason why you don't like Netflix?
It's just boring. I feel like after a while, there's nothing else to watch. No offense, Josh. No offense.
Yeah, don't apologize to me. Apologize to the Netflix and the ocean.
But yeah,
Netflix
I like
show on the
YouTube.
oceans.
Oh, that's the
YouTube.
worst.
I would choose YouTube too, simply because I found myself in situations where I needed to find like DIY stuff, or like I remember one time like lights on my car on a car I was driving came up, and then I didn't know how to fix it, but then YouTube helped me. You know, so I think for the sake of my own survival of like things like that, I would choose YouTube. So yeah. So I was gonna ask the
That's
other
very
one.
practical.
Yeah. You've never been in situations where you had to do that?
No, I've had.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason why. I mean, and then K-pop videos. Just kidding. All right, so that's just an icebreaker, just to share. I mean, I feel like I learned stuff about Danny. I never knew he hated ocean so much until today. But yeah, the main purpose of this week's episode is to just kind of look through the past 6 years and retroactively celebrate it. So I thought it would be fun to do like an oral history, and I'll have the guys chime in and stuff like that. But I think we've shared it a bunch of times here, and maybe even on the IG Live, of like the genesis, or like how it kind of started. You know, we had that Cave of Adullam moment with Josh, and I think we even shared it on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll kind of skip that part and kind of jump into the end of 2013, which is where we did our first ever event, which was a preview service. We did it in Queens, and I don't remember how many people showed up. Maybe like sub 20. Do you guys remember?
Nah, more than that.
More than
Yeah,
that?
I would say 40 to 50.
Oh shoot, no way.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I was thinking
LFC's
too.
LFC's church sanctuary is kind of packed at that night.
Oh really? I don't remember. I mean, that's the thing about me. Like, I suck at numbers and like trying to gauge like how many people are there. So I remembered it as 20, sub 20, but then it was actually more than double that. But I was there, and I think I was talking to I didn't know Danny then, right? I barely knew Kevin, but I remember right before I went to drive into Queens, it was that song by Amanda Cook. What's the name of that song?
Good Shepherd.
Oh, yeah, Good Shepherd. And this is before like it was out in an album, and then she has like the best version with the spontaneous. But I remember listening to that song and getting wrecked, because what I really felt in that moment was God's pleasure that we would have the faith to even do something like this.
Wow.
And I remember getting super wrecked, and then we went not really knowing what to expect, and sharing and everything like that. And Josh was there, Kevin was there, and Kevin, as someone who I guess wasn't as invested then, in the sense that Josh was a part of it and stuff. But Kevin, what did you think about or remember from that night?
Yeah, no, I just remember, I mean, from the beginning, I was just following Josh just to go to, I think we first went to your house, or like Sam Lee's house or something like that. And then we all like drove in together. So, was that the same day? I don't remember. But it was a different day. All right, I just remember when we got there, you were playing that song for us, like on the speaker. And I remember I was getting wrecked too. I think just like on a personal level, but I just felt God's presence there. And it was like, for me, I think around that time was when I like was first really going deeper in spirituality too. So I don't know if it was a spiritual high or something like that, but I could just feel God's presence like at that night. And then I remember it was also one of the first times I saw like, it wasn't like so many like multi-ethnic, like, you know, different race people, but I was like, oh, this is interesting. I get to worship with, you know, different races and stuff for the first time ever, instead of just Koreans. So I remember seeing that detail as well, but it's kind of crazy to see that I don't know, just like I would have never expected something like from me seeing what happened that night to where we are now, where we do that on like a consistent basis, because it was like a special event type of like service, but now we do that, I guess, like on a better scale or a better level, on more consistent like level as well. So
yeah, to be honest, I don't remember that car ride at all.
Wait, what? Maybe it was a different night that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and me and Kevin drove separately to that pre-service that night. Okay. And then it's actually funny you mentioned that song Shepherd, because on the way down, you actually emailed me that song beforehand, and you're like, "Yo, just keep this for yourself or whatever," because I think we like illegally downloaded it at that time.
Because Bethel didn't have a YouTube channel then, I think.
Yeah,
this is like 2013. So
yeah, and I remember after that night too, when we're driving back down to Rutgers, Kevin and I, we literally did not talk to each other on that way down, and we were just listening to that song on repeat the entire time.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that.
Kevin, I don't know if you remember this moment, But I remember because you were like up in the front, and I knew of you, but I barely knew you. And I came over and I prayed for you, and I gave you a word that you were a good son. But then you didn't talk to me the rest of the night. So I was like, maybe it was off. And at that time, like I was still growing in my prophetic. But then months later, Josh told me that, that probably was encouraging for Kevin because he was struggling with ROTC.
Yeah, actually, I remember that now. Like it was in the beginning. I actually remember what I was wearing too. I was wearing this weird cardigan thing. But then you did pray for me, and you said I was a good son during that time. I was going through because I just like stopped doing ROTC, had a big fight with my parents and things like that. And I think this was even before all the prophetic stuff. So I'm not even sure if it like connected like right then and there in that moment. But like now that I'm thinking about it, like that was a spot on work. Just because it was like that's something I was going through at that time.
Yeah, I was bitter that you didn't give me any. I realized we didn't know each other, but that was our first event ever of any kind, and it was kind of to paint a picture of what we were trying to do. And then January comes around, 2014, our first ever official event, January 29th, 2014. And at that time, we were trying to do midweek services, and that was in Englewood. And yeah, I mean that event was kind of a blur for me too. Do you guys remember anything from that time?
Englewood. That's when you preached the Hunger Games message, I think, right?
It is.
I mean, what I just remember from that was like, that was the first one that we did in Jersey, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was just special just because I think at that time, we had more people coming up from Jersey than anything. And so it was really cool for that. And we were just like meeting in the basement at KCC, the lower level. And once again, like not too many people came out. Maybe this one only like 20 people came out. But it was just special because I think there was a special, intimate, and hungry, like a hunger there for the people that did show up. Yeah, so like I just remember even just being in the lower level down there, like only 20 people, and I'm like, at first, to be honest, I was like, what is going on? Why is only 20 people showing up? But even with 20 people, there was still like hunger in the room and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I know the thing for me, what was on my heart in that time is, I guess I was dreaming big, more than thinking practically, because I wanted to do midweek services every week and then rotate between New York and New Jersey. But then I soon found out that was quite impossible to do. Like it was actually quite impossible to do. And we're still trying to figure out, how we're going to do it. Because that was originally like the heart. I said, like I mentioned, to do a midweek service. We're navigating that. And then all of a sudden, Josh has an idea to do a missions trip down in Central in New Jersey. And I guess this is us dreaming bigger than thinking logically once again. And we did something we called Pursuit New Brunswick. Josh, you want to tell us what that was and some stories? And Kevin, you could probably share too.
Yeah. At that time, I was in my last year in college, and I was doing just local mission stuff throughout my college last 2 years. But then Pastor Santa gave me an idea, like, hey, why don't you just use your spring break to just really like serve the city for the entire week of your spring break? And so me, Kevin, a couple of our other friends, like we just gathered. Maybe how many people were there on the team, Kevin? Like 15 people?
Yeah, like 15.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were just like promoting this idea. Hey, like instead of going to Mexico for spring break and doing some things that we would
by the
regret
ocean,
later,
by
the ocean. Instead of going to Cancun for spring break, I just put it out there for people. I was like, hey, what if we serve the city of New Brunswick where we go to school for that entire week there? And so we got 15 people signed up who are willing to, give up their spring break to just serve. And the entire week, it just looked something different. We would go out in the morning and the afternoons and we would just evangelize, pray for people, hand out sandwiches to the homeless people there, and just talk with them and build relationships. We would go to this youth empowerment service program and teach, provide free tutoring service to kids from low-income families. just to help them with the education and stuff like that. We also just went around and picked up trash just to serve the city because we just wanted to. And so, yeah, actually, now that I look back too, it kind of makes me wonder, like, what were we thinking? Why were we thinking so big? Like, you know, things could have gone wrong at any moment. But yeah, looking back, that's actually one of my favorite moments within Pursuit history.
Wow.
I mean, just to like share, I don't know, just some crazy stories is like, I think this is when we first started equipping other people in the prophetic and taking risks in faith. And so what we would do is like, we would do this thing called treasure hunting, where we would hear from God to kind of get treasure clues about, man, who do you want us to divinely meet today when we go out into the streets to evangelize? And like, this is one of my favorite stories. Wait, should I tell the story, Sam?
Yeah.
Will we have time? Okay. All right. So
we'll
like
go 3 hours for the birthday party.
All right. This is one of my favorite stories just because you know, we had people on the team who aren't used to prophetic and all that stuff. And so they're like learning and practicing for the first time. And this one girl, her name is Alice, she got this image of a black man in a black trench coat. And she was like, oh, I feel like God's going to lead me to this person today. Another guy named Ben, one of our friends, he got an image of the sun, but it's like the Native American sun. So he's like, oh, what the heck? That's so strange. But he's like, whatever, like, I'll just keep it in my back pocket. And when we split out into the groups to go into the city that day, they happened to be paired up together of all people. And so they're like walking together in the street. We dropped them off on the street and they're like just walking around the city. And all of a sudden, Alice sees a black man in a black trench coat walking into like a dollar store or whatever. And so she's like, oh my gosh, like that's the guy that I saw in my vision. Like I have to go after this guy. So her and Ben walk into the store and, you know, it's like awkward. They don't know like how to approach this guy. Like, you know, but they're like, we got to take a risk. Like this is what faith is about. Like this is what evangelizing is about. So they'll go up to the man and then she's like, hey, like they introduce themselves and she's like, this might sound awkward, but like we're Christians. We're praying to God, like asking who we're going to meet today. And I saw an image of a black man in a black trench coat. And this man got offended and he was like, I'm not black. And then Alice is really confused because I guess his skin color is like really, really dark. And she's like, what do you mean you're not black? And then the man replies, I'm actually Native American and my tribe is actually, we're known for having really, really dark skin color. And then Ben was like, wow, you're Native American? Like I got an image of a Native American son while I was praying to God too. And then they got to pray for his back, his lower back. And his lower back didn't get healed in that moment. But it was just such a cool opportunity to hear stories like that, where people are taking risks out on the streets so that people can encounter Jesus. And so, like, and there's other stories too. Like one girl was like evangelizing to a couple of drug dealers on I don't know. It's just like looking back,
just like crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's like crazy stories. Looking back, I'm like, thank you God that nothing happened because I don't know. There should have been a lot more preparation and logistical. Yeah. But anyways, thank you, God.
Yeah, thank you, Lord. But yeah, I mean, I think it's worth noting when I heard this story that they were like the most skeptical about treasure hunting too, right?
That's true.
Like they were like, I don't even think this is real. But yeah, I think even thinking about that and re-listening to that story and the equipping, because I remember driving down there to do like the equipping on the prophetic and the Holy Spirit. But then now, you know, our team does it better than me. And we've been doing it in this quarantine, you know? So it's just interesting to see just that journey itself, you know? Like at that time, I was teaching, like, I guess how to hear God's voice, but then now Danny's our go-to guy for hearing God's voice. And, you know, we literally are doing that for our volunteers. So I think even hearing that like 6 years later, like, man, it's pretty fun to hear that. So that was spring of 2014. And then jumping ahead to summer of the same year, that was a year of transition. I think we mentioned Josh in one, I don't know in what, because we're doing like so many different things, but Josh is getting ready to go to Africa. Our friends who are leading worship were getting ready to go to Korea. And I remember being really inspired by this thing called Pursuit 2.0 at that time, but I have no memory of what that actually was. Right, like I remember like being like really inspired in that moment. But I think just even that whole first year, one thing I remember looking back is that even from the beginning, like Josh, you were saying, and like we've been dreaming big, like maybe bigger than our we had wisdom for at the time. But I feel like dreaming big has always been part of our DNA. And we've always ventured into new things that we haven't seen necessarily other ministries do, such as podcasts. I mean, everyone has a podcast now in quarantine. Everyone has a YouTube channel now during quarantine, but we started a podcast in 2014. We did apparel. We did blog posts. We did all these different things. We did this thing called Frontier. And I think it's because our heart was always in dreaming. And I think we've mentioned it in the past where Pursue was birthed out of dreaming with God. And I believe God's dream for this region, not that we're the answer, but his heart is for revival. And we just wanted to say yes. Shout out back to that Hunger Games message, right? But yeah, so that was 2014. I think for the rest of the year, we're still trying to navigate what that looks like. I'm getting to know Kevin. And I think as I'm building relationship with Kevin near the end of 2014, I'm struggling to communicate with Josh with Kakao because that's the only thing that works, right? Did iMessage even exist then? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah. But so we're heading into 2015, and I think 2015, I would describe it as a year of new ventures because we started that new year with the Young Men's Conference. So I had my friends come, and I still feel like the Father's blessing we did at the Young Men's Conference is still one of the most powerful things we've ever done as a ministry. You could watch that video on our YouTube because we were trying to vlog and stuff like that too. So right after the Young Men's Conference, at the time, because literally the only ones there was me and Kevin, and Kevin was in college. So, but after we did the Young Men's Conference, or even when we're leading up to, I got so many messages from young women asking if we were going to do a Young Women's Conference that I had no choice but to do a Young Women's Conference.
Wow.
Honestly, right? Like,
wow.
I'm like, how am I going to do it? But so many college students or young women that I've met throughout the years saw what we were doing, and they wanted to know if we're going to do it. And what was awesome is that our women's conference was actually bigger than our men's conference, like more than double. And it was just as powerful. Got a lot of, my friends that were sisters to come. I didn't speak. I just emceed it, which was, there was no one else to do it. So I remember that's kind of how 2015 was. Kevin, do you remember anything from the Young Men's Conference? I mean, you're the one that was literally like inviting all your friends to come, and that's the only reason why we had people. I feel like.
Yeah, no, I remember I was really excited because I felt like just for the content that was supposed to come from the speakers about just like how God is Father and how what being a man in relationship with God like looks like. And I feel like that was something that I remember I was really excited for. I remember I invited like 5 or 6 of my friends from like Central, and then they literally all slept at my house, and then my parents were forced to sleep at their friend's house.
Oh my gosh, for real?
Yeah, because everyone slept over my house, so like we needed more space. So I remember even my parents sacrificing at that time to do that. But yeah, I just remember. I just remember even at the Father's blessing, it was like people that like I feel like normally they weren't going to church much at that time, or even people that they weren't really integrated with church or in a community, but they just came because they heard about it or they saw it on Instagram and they're like, I gotta go the next night. And I just remember people coming, and then during the Father's blessing, just a lot of encouraging, crying, and people actually looking like they're crossing the line into actually becoming, men of God. So I remember that.
Yeah. Like I said, that was still one of my favorite memories, most powerful memories of our ministry ever. 2015 also was the time we had the first time we had interns. Shout out to Koob and Sam, who are both in Asia.
Wow.
Right at this time, right? For some reason, they're both in Asia. And but yeah, I mean, I would say for me personally, during that year is when even more doors were opening for me personally to travel and speak, which I feel like, I would say this, like in that time or even before then, because God was opening doors for me to travel and speak at different events. To me, it was frustrating because I wanted to just be a pastor at a church. And yet, for whatever reason, God wasn't opening any of those doors. But the amazing thing is that in the moment, I was frustrated, but we were only able to do what we were doing today, and even the events that we've done in the past is because God had opened those doors for me to go travel and speak, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I was just pastoring at a church.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just something even in the midst of our story where God is working. I mean, he's protecting our lack of wisdom, and he's showing his wisdom in knowing like how he's setting everything up. So
Mhm.
that was 2015. A lot of open doors started happening. I think we're still trying to figure out how to do events in terms of our monthly gatherings, which is kind of the main thing we do now. But I don't know. I don't really remember if we did it or not. But I know that summer I had another idea called Pursuit Summer Thursdays, where we had a list of things we're gonna do. I mean, coming off the testimonies from the year before of treasure hunting. We want to do movie night, watching Compelled by Love, Heidi Baker's
Yeah.
documentary. Bunch of other things, like every Thursday during the summer we're gonna gather people, do something amazing. But it was just me and Kevin for most of the Thursdays. So I remember, like, I forget what we were supposed to do on one Thursday, but no one came, so we just went to eat dinner. Pursuit Summer Thursdays, one-on-one dinners, right? Kevin, what do you remember from that time?
No, I remember Compelled by Love changed my life, but
Shout out to Heidi.
Watching it. So we put up this projector in the sanctuary, but we could have just used like his laptop or something like that.
I could watch it on my phone.
Yeah. But no, I just remember it was, to be honest, like those times weren't discouraging at all, because I think we were just doing things in faith. And I guess to a degree, I felt like there was less pressure that no one was there, because I felt like if someone was there, we had to host, or I had to talk to people, and I'm an introvert. I didn't want to talk to people. And then I think around that time, I got to get more comfortable with PCM anyways, on a weekly basis. And then, that thing that you're talking about when we ate dinner was actually when we tried to do the treasure hunting. But I remember we got a bunch of words, and then we were walking around like Walgreens, and then there was
no one in there.
There's like no customers, and then the cashiers don't match whatever words we got. So we decided to go eat sushi, and then we're eating sushi, and it's like literally like nothing like is like matching up. And then PSAM, I mean, I guess I couldn't tell if you were nervous or not, but you were just like, oh, maybe we're just supposed to eat today or something. And
maybe I was discouraged or something.
You might have
or I was hungry.
Yeah. But I remember the last thing that happened was actually we ended up going to a 7-Eleven, like maybe like a 5-minute drive. And then I remember there was someone's like name tag, and it was like similar to a name that we got. And then I think I walked out of the store first, and I turned around, and I realized you're still talking to him. So I think you talked to him for a while, you came out, and I was like, oh, like, was that the word? Like, did anything happen? And you were just like, nah. And then that was the end of the
night. What best summer ever. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of, early days where, I mean, I feel like we're still young as a ministry, and we're not big or anything like that, but those are just some fun memories where it's like, what are we doing? Even I don't know. But I'm glad, Kevin, you were there, because otherwise I would have ate sushi by myself. I heard that guy eating at a restaurant by himself every Thursday night, and people are like, what's wrong with that guy?
Yeah, this is a random question, but was there a reason why it was specifically Thursday that you guys chose Thursday at that time?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I think maybe my work schedule or something. Like, I don't really remember. Because I think weekends, I mean, I feel like no one would come to our thing if it was on a weekend, but they wouldn't have come on any day of the week. Right?
That was proven on Thursdays.
that was proven on Thursdays. But yeah, and then we did different events. Josh comes back that summer. I still remember the retreat where we first saw Josh. It was summer retreat, but he was dressed like it was winter because he was cold. But yeah, and then as the year goes on, we're still doing different risks like apparel. I think for me personally, I was still trying to figure out what to do or where to go with it. If I'm honest, that was kind of the season I was really questioning my leadership or what the purpose of Pursuit was, why it needs to exist. And as we're going, we're heading towards the end of 2015, and this is where finally Danny King enters into the storyline, right?
Voila.
Yeah. So what is this now? Year two of the ministry, end of 2015. Danny King comes up. I think we shared this story too, maybe, but maybe you could just kind of retell it quickly.
Yeah, just a brief version. Up until that point, I barely heard of Pursuit. I think I may have heard about it. Maybe. I'm sorry. I'm from New York. That's why.
Yeah.
I don't think Pursuit.
It's not just you. It might have been everyone.
Yeah, it's not just you.
Dang it! Why did they
Yo,
come
you
on
never heard of
Thursdays?
Pursuit Summer Thursdays, bro? You never heard of that?
But then I started hearing about it, I think sometime around the summer, because that's when Pastor Sam was speaking at retreats. To make a long story short, I unfortunately couldn't continue on with the school I was going to at the time. I came back home. I was like, all right, I need to get connected to Pastor Sam and Pursuit because I heard about that they're all in for revival. And so I hit him up on Facebook. We end up meeting. In the moment, I end up asking him to mentor me. And then we go to a retreat together. This is in December, the last retreat of the year. And we had this conversation before, so I think it's okay if I share it publicly. But I remember during the retreat, it was just maybe my third time ever meeting Pastor Sam. And so it was still very awkward. At that time, I was like incredibly insecure. My view of pastors was like the Korean pastors, like you just have to show all respect no matter what. And so I couldn't even talk to him properly. And I remember walking out of that retreat, really, all jokes aside, thinking, oh man, I don't think I'm ever going to see him again. And that was my honest thoughts. And we had a chance to talk about it afterwards. And he told me how he thought about me. And I'll leave that part out. But yeah, I remember that's how we ended up meeting and linking up.
But I almost didn't see you again because I remember thinking this kid asked me to mentor him, but then he's leaving. Why? Literally the next month.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, why did he ask me to mentor if he's leaving? but I'll say this because once again, Danny and we talked about this. I think I remember reaching out to Josh and I was asking him for his opinion because Danny's personality is so different from mine. Even from the sense that he's extroverted and I'm introverted. And I remember I was wondering if I could even mentor Danny because I felt like our personalities didn't match. Shout out to Sean Bowles, who will come up in the storyline later. But he put out a tweet that says that spiritual fathering means that, I forget how he said it, but it was basically like to be a father means that you don't just mentor those who are like you.
Wow.
Right? Like I like butchered it, but he was basically saying like you're gonna have kids that don't have your personality. You're gonna have kids that are different from you. They all have different interests, but that's what it means to be a father. Like you don't just mentor people that are like you. And that challenged me to say, all right, then maybe I can try with Danny.
Praise God.
Yeah, so Danny finally comes into the storyline, and then he exits the storyline a month later because he goes to YWAM. But we did an event that December, end of 2015, which was actually the last event we would do for almost an entire year. Right? So end of 2015, we did like one final event. And then for about almost a year, we didn't do any of it because once again, this is the season where I personally found myself the most discouraged of leading this ministry, of myself, of my calling, of, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, to be honest, I still don't. But here's the thing that I realized where consistency is such a key. Pursuit wasn't doing anything. So maybe this is like marketing or what, but I was consistent on posting every single day on social media through Pursuit.
Wow.
And because God was opening up doors for me to speak, I would, instead of putting it on my personal Instagram, I'll put it on Pursuit's Instagram. Like we're traveling. Pursuit wasn't invited to any event. But I made it seem like Pursuit was being invited to every event because I was being invited, you know? And I think because of that, even though Pursuit wasn't actually doing anything, and I actually felt personally so super discouraged at that time, I think Outsiders thought Pursuit was still popping or something, or like it was going strong. But internally, I was really wrestling with, like I said, like my leadership. Should I just quit? Does this even matter? And everything like that. So that's how 2015 ends, and that's how we end up starting in 2016. But yeah, I think that's when I was just wrestling with a lot of different things. I think one of the turning points for me was when Josh and I remember we went to Firestorm. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Firestorm.
Storm Conference in Harrisburg, and that was much needed for me. Josh, what do you remember about that conference, like for you?
We were just really expectant on that one because I think Sean Bowles was speaking, so we're like, oh, we hope we get called up by Sean Bowles or whatever. But I remember that was just really fun for me personally because I think that's the first time I reconnected with you by going to like a conference or a retreat or stuff like that. So I think it was a good time just personally catching up with you. But there was just so much expectation around that conference because on the very first night, it's like pouring and it's like raining cats and dogs, right? And then I remember PSM, you shared with me what did Bill Johnson say? He says like
it was something in regards to Randy Clark, where you want it to cost you to get to something. Like, he likes it when it like is inconvenient to go to their event because the people who come because they're actually really hungry. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So we were just really expectant, and then man, Todd White spoke, and I remember PCM got wrecked by Todd White.
Yeah.
He was just like, yo, I got wrecked tonight.
Yeah. And that was actually my first time ever hearing him preach too. So yeah, so that was just really needed for me. Kevin, what were you doing in the beginning of 2016? You're finishing up college, or were you getting ready?
I was out of school. I was working at a after school program, 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's before Paris Baguette. That's before MBA.
Yeah. I was at KCC after school program.
And then Danny, you're getting situated in Kansas City.
With YWAM.
Yeah. So we're all in different places. And then I feel like April 2016 was kind of like what I personally needed. So for whatever reason, one of my friends, he's like, connected to this, one of the speakers of this conference. And then he personally reached out to me saying, hey, like, do you want to come? And I had no expectation, really. I didn't even know why I was going. I saw the list of people that are supposed to be there, like House Fires, Leif Hetland, Sean Bowles, and all these different things. And I was like, should I go or should I not go? Because I just literally 2 months before was at a conference with Sean Bowles and Todd White. Like, I forget who else was there. Like Jesus Culture was there and stuff like that, right? Chris McClarney or whatever. And I was like, I didn't really feel led in any way. I just wanted to go. And then Kevin went with me, who I felt like Kevin was in a weird place, a discouraged place during that time.
Yeah.
You want to say anything or you want to plead the fifth? I get discouraged that time.
I plead the fifth.
Okay. Maybe in 20 years we'll have an unedited version. That time. But that's where I think I shared it in the IG Live with the prophetic with Danny. Sean Bowles gives a word about pursuit over and over again, and I remember being in that moment just super encouraged. And I would say this about that moment because I really felt like it was a turning point for me. Because up until that point, I was discouraged. I didn't know what to do. I did want to quit. I would say that moment didn't mark me, but that moment happened because I was already marked. And I say that humbly, right? Like God saw me and wanted to remind me that he was for pursuit and he was the one behind it. But secondly, I would say it was God's mercy. Like it wasn't like his favor, like the blessing of God that's why he singled me out. But I felt like it was his mercy so that he would prevent me from quitting.
Wow.
And I think this goes back to dreams and everything like that, because, God told me, even couple years, like maybe the year right before Pursuit started, he spoke to me, and I was feeling a lot of angst and pain and anxiety, and I don't know how to describe it, just emotionally. And I remember sitting at Resting Place House of Prayer, just really wrestling, not knowing like how to pinpoint what I was feeling. I was just feeling so much discomfort. And this is what God said to me. He said, Sam, what you're feeling right now is the discomfort of being pregnant with the promise of God.
Wow.
And he said to me, in the past, you've had promises either aborted or miscarried. But this one, I'm going to bring it to full term. I'm going to bring and birth new life. And I feel like, and I think as we're sharing, I really feel like dreaming is one of the common threads of our story. And I felt like it was his mercy to keep me from quitting on the dream that God had already was already birthing or have birthed at that time. So April 2016 was a turning point for me. Kevin, what do you remember about that moment when Shambles?
I remember that wasn't the first time that Shambles spoke, because I remember the first time that I felt like that was when I was like, oh, he's gonna call us out. But I remember we were sitting separately. So I was on the way left side, PCM, you were in the middle. But then that session ended. He finished all the words, and I was like, oh, what the heck? Like, nothing happened. And then later, obviously our expectation is at all-time low because nothing happened the first time. And I actually didn't know if he was going to do words again. But then at the end, he started going into words. And then I remember me and P-Sam, we were talking, and then he was like, yo, you want to get chicken and waffles later? I was like, yeah, I'm down. So you're like on Yelp trying to find chicken and waffles. And I'm like, all right, let's see who Shambles is going to bless other than us. So I'm just watching. And then he's like, is there a Sam from New York? And then I'm like sitting and I'm like, oh, what the heck? Like, P-Sam's literally scrolling through Yelp looking for chicken and waffles that's open because it was late at night. And he looks up. He's like, oh, I'm Sam from New York. But then I remember at that moment, it was just like such a rush, and it was so, it was really exciting, but at the same time, it was just so humbling because I feel like it just was crazy to feel like, wow, like God sees us. Well, I learned two things. Like, for one, God sees us, and two, that Shambles isn't a false prophet. Because I had my reservations against him too. And even, him calling you out, I remember I was like, oh, it's because we posted on like Instagram. So he probably looked up the hashtags, like found a random, person with a lot of followers and then chose Pastor Sam. But then what you were telling me was that he was saying things word for word from your journal. And I think that's the part where I was like, holy crap, like that has to be God, because there's no way, unless like all the people that gave prophetic words in the past are in like a alliance together to like be out to get us. It doesn't make sense, So I just remember that rocked me, and it actually shaped me in the way that I view prophetic also.
Yeah. Especially with what you were going through, but you pleaded the fifth.
Yeah, no, that's a different story.
Yeah. That'll be the director's cut later. But yeah, I just want to say this about that moment, because, Kevin, I didn't know you were expecting. I literally had zero expectations going. I didn't even know why we were actually in Atlanta. I had like preaching engagements there too. But literally the message, I think how the conference began was with Leif Hetland, and basically it was about sitting in a chair. Like, it's this chair of sonship and then the chair of slavery, right? And I felt like it was actually prophetic that I was on Yelp in that moment, because I was literally at rest. Because if you've ever seen Shambles preach, people are striving, people are like wanting to like stick out or, be noticed, and they want to be called so badly. If I'm honest, I really, we went to the conference, but I had no real desire to be called out. I wasn't really expecting it, and I didn't really care, if I could say it like that, right? But I felt like it was really important, because I think that was part of the word for me, is that, Sam, you really didn't have to do anything for me to call you out. That's the first one he called out too. Like, I literally wasn't doing anything or striving, but God just did it. And I remember us texting Josh at that time. But did you guys even know Danny at that time?
No,
I
I
don't
had
think
no
so.
idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely knew Danny too. So, right. So to fast forward this story, it's the summer of 2016, and then it's the return of Danny King.
Let's go.
Right. So
I'm
he
back.
comes and leaves, and then now he's back. And at that time, still Pursuit, we weren't doing anything. But once again, I'm in a different place with my own with Pursuit after that moment, and God was piecing a lot of things together. And I felt like I had no expectations once again of who Danny is or who he, based on my last experience. Maybe I had bad expectations, possibly. No, I'm just kidding. But I felt like everything God was doing in that season. I mean, I didn't piece this together until right now as we're sharing. I feel like Danny coming back is actually part of what I needed and what Pursuit needed.
Wow.
Because I think 2016 was kind of like the bounce back, for lack of a better way to say it. And I think Danny literally coming back is part of that part of the story. So Danny, what do you remember about 2016, that summer?
Yeah. No, I remember all throughout YWAM, like PCM would keep messaging me and checking up on me here and there. I mean, he's friends with now a mutual friend, John. But he even told John, yo, look out for Danny. Like, yo, keep an eye on him in a
I
good
don't
way.
remember.
Yeah, so John told me. And John took real good care of me. Fast forward, I come back in June of 2016. And the day after I get back, PCM invites me to this meeting. It was the Represent movement. And they had this showcase, and then I see PCM again. And then we connect again, and he invites me to a retreat. But I just noticed something was different, like between our relationship. And I remember going to a retreat with them, and it was like a 3-hour drive, and it was the most fun I've ever had in a while. Like with him, just in general. Like our conversation, it was so like it was just so much fun. We talked about all the crazy stuff and whatnot. And I just remember something just changed between our relationship. From that point on, like I'm just thankful that when I came back from YWAM, I had someone I could do this with, or someone who would actually empower me to live this out, which a lot of people who come back from YWAM, they don't. And unfortunately, it's the reason why many of them are no longer, as passionate or walking with God as they were before. But I just remember that summer was just really special. I got to see PSAM Pursuit. It started to do a lot more events. That's when Pastor Sam really started to empower me to even open up in prayer, close out in prayer, speak here and there. And so, yeah, it was real special.
Yeah. So I think it was really important that Danny came back in that season, because I think Josh was busy with, now pastoring and seminary. Kevin is now working out of school. And then, Danny saying something changed. I'll say this: what changed was Danny.
Praise the Lord.
Right. That's how I knew YWAM was legit, because I knew Danny before pre-YWAM and I knew him post-YWAM.
Wow.
And he literally came back a different person. And I was so grateful, because Danny knew how to hear the voice of God. He was confident in his identity. And I'm like, dang, they did my job for me. Let's go. Right. And the summer is when finally we did an event for the first time since end of 2015. So almost literally a year later, we did our first event, and it was a joint one with our friends over at Worship as One. It was the first regional worship night, and that was the first time we actually put on an event. But like I said, because of retreats and other open doors, people didn't know it was our first event, except us. So we finished out the year with Worship as One as well, doing another regional worship night to end 2016. And 2017 begins with, up until that point, what was over a year of what God was doing in me with a prophetic journey, where Pursuit goes to Japan. So, that was very significant for me. And I literally had the best time of my life. I think it was one of the only, one of, or if not the only, angelic experience I've ever had with an encounter. That's a different story for a different time. But I would say this about 2017. I believe 2017 was the year of breakthrough for our ministry.
Wow.
Right? Like that was when everything started to change. Everything started to click. And then from March of that year, because January, we're just coming off a bunch of retreats and stuff. February, I'm in Japan. And then I come back, we do another regional worship night, but starting from March until literally the March of this year, we've been doing monthly gatherings every single month.
Oh wow, I didn't know it
Yeah.
was since March
Yeah, so
2017.
yeah, March of 2017 until now, because of pandemic, we've done a monthly gathering or a monthly event because some were joint, right? We've done a monthly event every single time until this past month. April was the first time we didn't do a monthly event since then. But what do you guys remember about the beginning of 2016? Where were you guys at this point?
Beginning of 2017, right? I mean, for me personally, I was doing my second year of internship at New Mercy, unpaid internship, and I was just like questioning myself, like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, am I really doing another year of interning? Like, taking care of myself financially. I was like trying to figure out all that different stuff, and I was like, I was babysitting 2 kids, doing Lyft on the side, trying to make some side income. And I think for me, I was in a place where I was personally struggling with myself about my thing with ministry. I was like, is ministry really a thing that God's leading me to? Or, so I remember me personally, 2017, that was a big struggle for me with where I was at.
I remember for me, I was in college, first time going back to college after taking a gap year. And that was a rough season for me. But that's when the lesson of hiddenness that's when God was really teaching me the lesson of being hidden. Hiddenness, the unseen moments of your life and what God is developing there. Because once again, I just got back from YWAM and I've seen God do incredible things and I'm not seeing it here. And in my mind, I thought God would use me powerfully since day one, and he hasn't. And so just a lot of like wrestling tension. And I think that's when I was really trying to figure out and see, okay, like, God, can I really do this here at home in America in this region? Like, can I really be here or do I need to go away? And so those are like real thoughts I was having at the time.
I mean, I don't really remember too much for myself, 2017. I just remember that's when I was working at Paris Spaghetti, trying to figure out like the direction of my life. But I don't really remember too much, to be honest.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a snapshot where everyone was during that time. Yeah. But from that place, I guess spring, we started doing events every single time. But yeah, I really feel like that's when breakthrough started to happen for us. Still at that time, the people that would come out was inconsistent. We didn't know if it was going to be single digit or barely double digit or what. But I think it was at that time when God really convicted me of something had to change. And I felt this holy desperation in that time. And once again, going back to that word, because I really feel like from Sean Bowles was a turning point where, I mean, one of the words he said is that there's a gathering anointing on pursuit. And I remember really thinking to myself, either that man's a false prophet, our anointing sucks, or like there's something missing, like there's a gap between it. So, but because I know God is perfect, he's not man to lie or exaggerate. So I took God at his word. Then I realized something had to change with me, because the issue isn't God. The issue isn't the word. The issue is me. And I felt this holy desperation. And I remember having a conversation with Danny at that time. And that's kind of how, our prayer meeting on Sunday nights were birthed. And I really didn't care who came out or what. I just needed to seek God with everything I had. And I felt like that really was the turning point of that year. And I feel like it culminates that summer where we had like over 170 people come to our gathering. And it's the first time we hit triple digits. We had our friends, the Yoons, with us, and it literally was standing room only. And, it was just one of those nights that really was special. Like we needed that. Do you guys remember that night at all? We did it in Queens.
Are you asking us?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is one of the most special gatherings I think that I remember. It was really special, and no one really preached. I know John gave like a short exhortation, But Josh, I remember you leading us into a time of healing
Yeah.
and really going after healing.
Shoot.
And we saw a
Yeah.
lot of breakthrough.
That you're talking about that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that night was crazy also because we were just worshiping for like an hour and I don't know, hour and 20 or something like that.
Mhm.
I thought there was gonna be a message, but there was no message. It was just like straight up just worship and intercession and like in a worshipful way. So
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that too. I was confused for a second. I was like, I don't remember this night, and then I was like, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't really remember that night too well. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that was an important night because, like I said, like up until that point, we would see like 20 people, and then but we saw 170, and we broke a new level of like consistency of like, you know, I would say like this: it was a year of breakthrough because God took us to a level that we never went below again, right? Not just even in numbers, but just like even with the presence of God.
Yeah.
He took us to a place that became our new baseline. You know, that whole year. A lot of other highlights in 2017. Kevin preaches for the first time ever.
Let's go.
Ever. Josh, you preached, but I don't know if it was your first time preaching ever, but it was your first time preaching for Pursuit at least.
Yeah.
One of my favorite messages ever. Building altars in every season.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's so good.
And I asked Danny to preach that year, but then, like you said, he was in a learning hiddenness, so he told me no.
I told him no.
Yeah, he told me
I didn't
no.
know that.
Yeah. And I think at that time it was really important for me where I didn't want to be the one that was speaking all the time. So I just felt like it was important to share the pulpit and just make that kind of the thing where the gathering isn't built around who the speaker is, but the presence of God. And then fall of 2017, we mentioned it last week, but our leadership team was finally formed. So you can watch that one to kind of hear stories from that time. And then with that, you know, jumping ahead, we're heading into 2018, and I feel like we were riding a lot of momentum from all the breakthroughs in 2017. 2018, let's just give a snapshot of where everyone is at this point. Where are you guys by this point in life, 2018?
The beginning of 2018.
Yeah, just 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was on my 4th job out of college. 3 years out of college.
Typical millennial.
Yeah, 4th or 5th job out of college. But I'm still at the same place now. But beginning of 2018, I think that's when I just officially got a role at the NBA. And I think that's when my career was developing, but still trying to figure out what I was trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
I think for me, I was just very excited because, like P. Sam said, that's when the team was developed. And I was like, oh man, I'm just really excited to see where this goes. Personally, I remember. I mean, I'm still in school, but I remember that's when I started to preach. End of 2017, beginning of 2018. That's actually one of the first times I began to preach.
Yeah.
2018 for me, I just got hired at New Mercy as a youth group pastor. And so just doing youth pastoring, still in school for seminary in my second to last year. I remember 2018 was like when I felt like I had a lot going on my plate. And it's just like, and then I was excited for Pursuit, just like Danny shared. The leadership team we assembled, and I felt like we were finally getting momentum. We were structuring and solidifying things as a team, as an organization. But I just remember at that time, like feeling like I'm juggling so many different things and feeling stressed but excited.
Yeah. So I would describe, looking back, that if 2017 was a year of breakthrough, 2018 was a year of building. Right. So, I mean, we rode a lot of momentum into 2018. And I mean, we experienced it with the January gathering. Our friend Will came and spoke, and we had over 200 people come. I don't know how many people, but that was
280?
standing. Yeah, something like that. And that sanctuary was super packed. I remember going to the back to pray, and then coming back, I'm like, wait, what the heck? Like they're like sitting in the choir seats at the church, and like, and that was just one of the so encouraging for me. You know, I remember going upstairs of the church and looking at a sanctuary, because I haven't been to a sanctuary. I mean, thankfully it was maybe a small sanctuary, but a sanctuary like that in a long time where it was absolutely packed. Where we had to add chairs to the pews on the side for people to sit, and even that wasn't enough. And that was so special. Another big milestone that happened in 2018 is that we became an officially incorporated organization. Right? We became an Inc. Right? So those were just steps of us building, right? Like getting the practical things done. Our team was set in place. Our volunteer team is being launched, right, by Kevin.
I remember that.
Yeah. So Kevin, what do you remember when because I felt like what was really important for our team is that people would have roles or things that they could take ownership of, and I remember meeting Kevin and telling him that. So what do you remember from that time?
Yeah, no, I just remember you were asking me, is there anything you want to run with? And then I was like, no, I'm good. Like I like what I'm doing. But then I remember you're like, how about if you ran the volunteers team? And then I think initially, I think it's just because I was just not used to leadership or responsibility. But then I think I remember after thinking about it, it was actually something exciting. I think you kind of awakened something in me where now I could see totally like why God placed me in that role, just because I think it's really aligned with who I am and what my vision is. But I remember that year I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I asked a bunch of people to help out. There was not really much direction.
Yeah.
There was no guidance, and it was like people I couldn't even like quote unquote lead because I didn't even know like how to lead. So sorry to you guys if you're watching, but I remember that's when I was actually learning a lot about like how to structure things, why things need organization, and things like that too.
Yeah. And now 2 years later, Kevin is killing it. I think what's funny
Yes.
is I remember the first ever volunteer meeting, and it was exciting, but literally none of those people are volunteers.
Yeah.
Right.
Not even one.
Yeah, I don't think so. Half of them might not even be Christians, to be honest.
No, come on, please.
I mean, I was about to say maybe they weren't even then, but I'll stop myself there. Yeah, right. Okay. But yeah, I forgot to mention this in 2017 too, about the year of breakthrough, which I think is really important because once again, I'm noticing the theme of dreaming. But we launched healing rooms then too. And that's when we launched healing rooms, which is another dream that we've had in the beginning. So I know I skipped it, but I want to go back to it because I feel like it's really important because I remember when we were first starting Pursue, once again, everything was about dreaming. And I remember dreaming about just healing and healing rooms and talking with Josh. And I would say this, even though, and I would speak from my perspective, where it was something on my heart because I felt like it was something that we're called to go after. I feel like it's an anointing that's on our team actually for healing. But to do healing room was so risky. That's what I really felt like, because no one's doing healing rooms in our region, or at least not that I know of. But to say that we're going to do healing rooms felt so risky. And I didn't want to go after because I wanted to prove a point. Like, and I was waiting for the right time to launch it, but it was a dream. And then finally we're getting ready to launch it. But Josh, what's your whole, what do you remember about just even that whole journey, even from dreaming, like talking about it and passing to now finally launching it? And now, I mean, you even teaching on it today, right? Literally this morning. So
literally this morning. But I remember too that I think when I first met you then, and we were just talking about kingdom stuff, going after healing and stuff like that. And then I think that's when like I started learning and just doing it more and going after it as well. And then when we did have the Cave of Adullam moment in Edgewater, you were just sharing your dream about pursuit. And I remember clearly, but you're like, one of the biggest things that I would like to go after is to go after healing in our region. And I remember you put it the phrase like this, like, I would like pursuit to be the stake in the ground to say in our region that we go after healing. And so I remember that very definitively. And I think, as you guys heard our years, like there's different things here and there. But I remember when PCM was thinking about it in 2017, he was processing his thoughts that he just shared right now, where he's like, yeah, I want to go after it, but to be honest, there's a risk involved, right? And like, like we don't want persecution or anything like that. And we're like kind of joking about it, but also like, as he just shared right now, like that was the thought process. But then I remember PCM was like, hey, let's actually go for it this year. And I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know how it looked like, but it's actually pretty crazy because even in my journey too, when I was in Africa, I went to go to England and get connected to a church that's connected with Bethel and Jesus culture. And they run healing rooms there every third Saturday of the month. I happened to be in that third Sunday of that month. And I got to actually see a healing room take place. And then I think that gave me ideas and inspiration. And so when PCM came to me, he was like, hey, let's go after it. I felt like it was so timely because like I had a vision. I actually got to see what it can look like. And then I think when we finally launched after, it was like just awesome just to see like, oh man, we're finally going after this dream that maybe 3 years ago, it was like, all right, yeah, we were dreaming about it, but now we're like actually going to it. So it was just crazy. And I think like the fact that we even did it at a cafe in Powell Park on Broad Ave, like, I don't know. It's just like in the middle of where everyone is. It's like not at a church. It's not at like, I don't know, a ministry place, but literally at a cafe. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. So I just wanted to touch upon that real quickly because I felt like 2018 is a year of building, but I really felt like that was when we started to see miracles consistently. Right? Like it might not be like crazy, but I really feel like 2018 is when we started risking more, giving more words, going after the prophetic more, and God just came through and he backed his word, like the Bible says he would. And I really felt like that was when we started to see miracles increasing in our gatherings. We started seeing miracles just happen. Me and Danny, when we would go out, we would just start seeing miracles on the streets and random places. Josh, same with the rest of our team. You guys would just go give words to people. Josh became a healing evangelist, Lyft driver, praying for people. And I really felt like 2018 was marked by that as well. Danny finally preaches for the first time in 2018. He comes out of hiddenness by preaching a message on hiddenness. And then goes back into hiding again. But 2018, just kind of fast forwarding it, because this is what I realized, like remembering years that are closer is harder than remembering years that were further away. I don't know if that sounds like a parable right now, but 2018 too, it ended with transition. Our good friends Jay and Janet were part of a leadership team, but they transitioned out. And I remember for me though, 2018 literally, for personal reasons, different reasons, I found myself really just hit hard by life. And it was really difficult with just work, family, health. And it's interesting because a lot of the things that was coming up then, I feel like, at least not in circumstances, but in what God is doing has been coming up in our own conversations behind the camera or webcam, behind the webcam. So that's pretty interesting. But that's kind of 2018 ended, and then 2019 was beginning. And what did you guys feel as, I guess this is last year now, right? I mean, it feels like forever ago, but then, so there's literally 5 months ago, it was still 2019, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's pretty wild. But what do you remember heading into 2019?
I feel like 2019 was like where things were starting to pick up even more. Like momentum was gaining up. Like that's when we just first launched Hearing the Voice of God workshop. And then I think our gatherings were picking up as well. So I just felt like a lot of momentum I think things were moving faster at that point for us as a ministry.
I just remember doing a lot. And I think even for like the volunteers team, just like new ideas for restructuring. Still like failing, still just trying things. But I remember it felt really busy. And I actually remember that because I was going through a lot of personal things too. And it was actually 2019 was really tough. But then I just remember at that tough time, Pursuit was getting busier too. Like we were doing more.
Yeah. I remember end of 2018, heading into 2019 was when we started to build a lot of relationships with people in ministries that we normally wouldn't be connected to. For example, I remember 2018 was when we hit up the city for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Or was that 2019?
2017.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, 2017.
And so I remember 2018 heading into 2019 was, just really building relationships you normally would not build with your circumstance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like that's one of the things that God has really done in 6 years.
Yeah.
Like he has built friendships and partnerships that we have with people that would take a decade at least.
Mm.
And we've been doing ministry together. And I really feel like a lot of that started in 2015 for me personally. Just, I don't know how else to say it except just the favor of God has opened doors and brought people into our lives and people who championed our ministry and believed in us and sowed into us. And I think by 2019, we're starting to reap a lot of what we've sown in those friendships and relationships, even more so. So, I mean, this is what I wrote in my notes. I felt like 2019 was a year of growth, right?
Wow.
Because I feel like God was growing us up a lot. Like Kevin said, it was difficult for him personally. I mean, 2019, end of 2018, beginning of 2019 was probably some of the hardest season I've ever been in my life. Just personally, circumstantially, maybe even spiritually in a lot of ways too. I mean, it's funny because we've literally behind, when the cameras are off, we've talked about that season because we felt like God is reminding us some things. But another thing I wrote in my note here is that it was the year where we saw dreams starting to be fulfilled. Because I remember when we ended 2018, there were a few goals that I wrote out for our team, and we literally accomplished all of them.
Wow.
Right? Like there were like things that were out of our reach that we were able to do, like a podcast, getting a speaker, and then last but not least, our conference. And I would say the conference we did was something on my heart for maybe even the beginning. I don't know if I necessarily ever talked about a conference per se, but something along those lines was always on my heart. And finally, I think I wanted to do it in 2017. I initially wanted to do it in 2018. But then finally 2019 was the green light year where God allowed our conference to take place. And, I mean, for me personally, that was the highlight of the year, of last year. What do you guys remember about our conference? Maybe we've talked about it before, but it's worth talking about it again.
Yeah. The best conference ever. I'm a little biased, but no, I just remember heading into the conference. It was difficult because I mean, I think it's okay for us to be completely real, but we weren't getting the registration set. I remember like we posted up registration link, we made it all exciting and everything, and like maybe a week or two left, we had like maybe 20 people registered, right? And we're like, oh, is this really gonna happen? Pastor Sam shared before, there's 3 other mega conferences happening literally the same days. And so I remember heading into it, it was so difficult where, if I'm being honest, there were moments where I was discouraged. And I was like, is this really going to work out? Did we hear from God wrong? Are we striving? But then the conference hits and best conference ever. No, but it was really special. It was really special.
Yeah, it was kind of unreal. Like, there was like a lot of stuff going into it. But then even the day of just setting up, and it's just like, it just felt unreal that it was actually happening. Like even as the days were going in. And to be honest, like it was like some of the most tiring days just because we had a lot of logistics to take care of even during the conference times. But I think each session was just like, literally every session was good. And I think even just seeing just people, being ministered to by God, and just seeing that kind of impact, it just was like super unreal. I think that's the only word that comes to my mind. Like it just felt unreal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of sharing what Danny said, like there were 2-3 other major conferences going on at the time, and it's like, well, like why would people come out to ours? But I think PCM mentioned this in another podcast or IG Live, but like there was something for our region through our conference, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that was coolest for me was just seeing very different groups of churches and people come to our conference, like churches that I wouldn't even think of that are attending. And I thought that was cool because I literally thought this was like so regional. People from like Delaware coming. We got people from like Texas as well, right? Or no?
Oh yeah.
Atlanta, people from Atlanta flew in.
Atlanta. Oh yeah, Atlanta and stuff like
literally
that.
all over the
just,
region. So
yeah, and so just for me, that was really humbling. I was like, oh wow, people are really gathering to go after this revival and Jesus, So yeah.
No, that's awesome. And then we had another transition. Josh goes out to Cali. And it's funny because he literally graduated this past week.
Yeah.
Right? Like
It's true.
but it feels like time flew by. And but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember what else happened in 2019, but I feel like the conference is just like it eclipses everything else that we've done that year.
Yeah.
But I think we were being really consistent with podcasts and blog posts and just trying to really build, even in the midst of different things and stuff like that. Our team got to go to Redding, California for Leaders Advance all together for once. We had other transitions. Lisa was an intern, then she transitioned out, I guess, this year, right? But she was a big part of last year as well. But yes, I really feel like it was the year of fulfilling dreams. And maybe we mentioned this before, maybe we haven't. But I remember after the conference, because of just how powerful it was, with so much momentum, even from people, I felt like, oh, shoot, we're about to go have another breakthrough. But it really wasn't at all. And I guess that's another common thread is I get discouraged a lot along the journey, right? Heading into the conference, I'm like, man, we should just cancel this thing, and then even when things just kind of start falling apart in a lot of ways afterwards. But, I think we've processed it before and God spoke to me and confirmed it with other people. But I really felt like it was God showing us a glimpse of what is to come. The revival really is coming, but he had to prepare us. Because I think what we all expected as a team is like, oh my gosh, we're about to go to another level.
Yeah.
Like, Kevin, get ready because you're about to have like 500 more volunteers.
Yeah.
Because I got 500 DMs like after the conference, right? Like if they want to serve. But if I look back once again, we talked about how God covers our lack of wisdom, but God is always operating in wisdom, setting us up steps ahead where, if we did grow exponentially then, it would all be put to a hold in this season.
Yeah.
I bet we wouldn't even do something as intimate like what we're doing right now on YouTube. And I feel like once again, it's God's wisdom, his sovereignty, his faithfulness, and his guidance and him leading us. And then, that's kind of how 2019 is. Because I think we were headed. Is that even how headed?
We headed in.
Heading into 2020, I think we had a lot of dreams, right? We had a lot of vision. We had a lot of like hopes and expectations of what to do because God literally had to strip things away. He had to do some things. And I think as we're getting for 2020, literally no one's expected what was to come, right? And through that, we've been doing monthly gatherings ever since 2017. We had to pivot. And I feel like we've kind of found a nice little sweet spot that's been fun for us with online IG Live, and that's kind of how 2020 has been for us. So that's kind of a long oral history of our ministry as a whole. But
that's fun.
Yeah, just to kind of go over. But what's your favorite memory from the past 6 years that isn't like maybe obvious or a personal thing? Maybe it's like something. Maybe it's nothing, but to you, it's just like, man, this one is dear to me.
Yeah, I have a super personal one. It doesn't involve most people on the team, but it was just me and P Sam. Maybe it was just
Okay.
like more personal for me, anyways. But then anyway, so it was my senior year of college. But actually, I think that whole senior year was really personally good for me in terms of me getting invested into Pursuit, because that's when we
What year
had
is this?
that's 2014 to 2015. But we had nothing going on that year because, Josh is in Africa. We're having changes in our team and we're not really doing events. But then on social media, we're doing events every week. But then
Thank
I
God for
remember
itinerant ministry.
I remember that year I was serving a lot at my church. And then we used to do like early morning prayer and Tuesday night prayer. And I actually used to do rides on campus. So I had to go like pretty often. But I actually remember like almost every day praying for Pursuit and PCM. But I don't think I've ever told anyone here this. I don't think PCM, I don't think I told you this either. But I used to pray for you like almost every single day that year. And I feel like, I don't really know, but God has been reminding me of those days a lot recently. And I feel like it's like things that I've sown in that is starting to come into fruition now. And I feel like there's going to be even more to come like later. But that's not the moment. The moment was at the end of that year when I was eating sushi, I think Sushi Palace with PSAM. And then I remember we're in the car. I don't think you remember this, but you were driving me back to campus. And then you were like, Kevin, like you're like a part of the team, right? Like you're a part of Pursuit. And I was like, oh, really? Like, but I just like feel weird because I don't do anything. I can't do anything. I'm not a pastor. I have nothing to give. And I remember you were like, Kevin, like, I just need you to know, like, you don't have to offer anything. Like, all you have to do is just be there, and that's it, and that's enough. And then I remember I was just like wrecked, and I was like, what the heck? Like, what kind of leader is this? Like, is he foolish? Like, does he not know who I am? Like, doesn't he know he needs capable people like to be in a ministry? But I still remember that moment like really clearly. Like we were just in a car driving back. It was like sunny, like 70 degrees. Like,
yeah, I remember that day.
Yeah.
Mm.
That was my
And
favorite
Kevin
moment.
showed up that summer.
Summer
He took it to heart.
Because of what you said.
Summer Thursdays.
I think for me, the most memorable one was recently in the summer of 2019, where we spoke at a retreat all together. Because I remember for the longest time I wanted to, like, what would it look like if we all did ministry together, like itinerant ministry. And I always wondered what that would look like. And finally that summer we had a chance to. And it was just really special, like doing life with each other for those 3 days. I thought it was one of the most fun. We had so much fun at night before going to bed. It was just so much fun. And then I won't share what happened and some of the things that went on, but I just remember that's one of the moments where I was like, man, I really want to do life with Pursuit, and I really want to do ministry with Josh, Kevin, and PCM for life. Like, yeah, that was the most memorable for me.
Yeah, we gotta go back and delete some stuff from our Marco Polo from that night.
Yeah.
It's saved.
Shoot. For me, I think one of my favorites is last summer, August or July. When was the PCNJ retreat, PCN? June?
July.
I don't remember. It was after the retreat Danny just said.
July.
Okay, so it was at July, right? And I remember this one, PCM was going to speak solo, but he told me to come for the last night. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'll just go last night and just chill. So we went, and PCM preaches his fire message, and then we're doing ministry time. And then at the end of ministry time, we just felt like there was an anointing for healing at that moment. So we're like, hey, let's go after it. And like a good handful of students get healed that night, like maybe about 20 on the spot. And that's probably the most that we've seen people get healed like at once, at one moment, going after like just one thing. And then it was crazy because we're like praising God in that moment. And I was just like, all right, guys, for those of you who still didn't get healed, PCM and I will be off to the side after worship ends, and we still want to contend and pray for you. And then worship ends, and me and PCM went to the side, and literally we have like 40 kids standing in line wanting to receive prayer. And kids are just getting healed like more and more and more. And it's like probably the most amount of healing I've seen in one thing. But it's my favorite moment because we started grabbing kids who did get healed and teaching them how to pray for healing for the other kids as well. And then there's this one moment where it's like maybe 30 minutes have passed and I'm tired. PCM is tired. PCM is done. PCM is sitting in a chair and he's like, I'm done for the night.
Yeah.
And I literally go up to a kid. I'm like, yo, you guys have small groups right now, right? Like, shouldn't you go to small groups? And this kid said something to me that I think I'll always remember. He was like, praying for healing is more fun than going to small group. Like, I'd rather be doing this than going to small group.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that was like, wow, we're actually seeing the fruition of what we've been plowing the ground for, not only in terms of healing, but in terms of equipping the next generation. That our breakthroughs is that our ceiling is their floor, and like, the kid was like, I'd rather be here praying for healing and seeing God do stuff than go to small group. And I was like, wow, that'll always be with me.
It's so good.
That's awesome. I'm trying to think, what was my favorite? I mean, I wrote down the questions, but I didn't prepare an answer for these questions. But I mean, I feel like I have so many, obviously, I guess. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't want to like cry right now on YouTube.
Yeah, let's text on the side right now if PCM's gonna cry. Let's make some side bets.
But I don't remember which gathering it was particularly, but I remember it was a gathering that was just like really powerful. Like, it was a gathering where like we all was like, oh my gosh, like God blew up the place. Like, there's so much excitement. Like, a lot of people came. I think the church was packed. Like, I really don't remember the gathering itself. It might have been one of the summer ones in Hansung where it was like 80 people in there, which, if you know that church, like if it's 80 people in there, you can't move. Like, that's how small the sanctuary is. So I think it was one of those days. But I remember we do our gatherings on a Saturday, and Sunday we do Seek at 6. And I remember going to the basement because I think it was too hot upstairs in the sanctuary and I didn't want to turn on the AC. And I remember being in the basement by myself and having an even more powerful time with Jesus alone. Wow. And I remember thinking, this is what it's all about. Like, this is the pursuit. Not any of the things that we put on or do, but like that moment right there when no one else was there and no one else could be excited or congratulate me or whatever, right? And I was just alone with Jesus in the basement of a church with my Bible open. I was like, this is it. Like, this is it, like, that's the secret behind everything we do. Like, that moment right there. So that's like a personal, I guess, random memory, but I love all of our other memories too. But I just remember that night literally being in the basement of the church because the sanctuary was too hot and I knew no one else was going to come. So I was like, I'm going to just be in the basement because it's cooler in there. And I remember just getting wrecked even more so than at the gathering itself. So yeah, what would you say to yourself 6 years ago? If you could go back in time, and you could go back to when Pursuit first started, retroactively now, because this isn't actually our anniversary, but we didn't have any other ideas for the YouTube. If you could go back to 6 years before Pursuit started, what would you want to say to yourself?
I mean, in light of Dr. Rob Reamer's IG Live yesterday, I think it'd be similar as to, I would tell myself the phrase, like, put in the hard work, keep sowing even when I don't see fruit. And I guess, I'm still young, like 6 years ago wasn't that long ago, so I could take that advice now. So I'll tell that to myself right now and I'll take that advice. But I think that's, I just realized, like, that's just the key, I think, to just anything. just that type of perseverance, just sowing even when you don't see any fruit, sowing for the next generation, and things like that. So
Okay.
that's what I would tell myself.
Sowing for the next generation. That's good.
I would tell myself, if I can go back, Josh, make it about Jesus and Jesus only. Because not gonna lie, 6 years ago when PCM and I, like when he first started dreaming with me and stuff like that, not gonna lie, I thought we were gonna hit the lottery. Like I thought this was gonna blow up. I thought we are gonna be the next Hillsong in Jersey and whatnot. Not gonna lie. And I think I had all these different other thoughts in my head of like, like we're gonna blow up, it's gonna be popular, it's gonna be blah blah. But at the end of the day, I wish I could go tell myself like Josh, like make it about Jesus and Jesus only, because that's going to be the fuel that sustains you, and nothing else. Everything else is secondary to that. So, yeah, that's. I thought we were hitting the lottery. I mean, we did still hit the lottery, but I thought we were gonna hit the lottery like we're gonna pop off right away.
The Hillsong of New Jersey.
We have Hillsong, New Jersey.
Yeah.
They meet where Morristown or something.
Montclair.
Yeah.
Montclair.
Montclair.
Yeah, something like that.
I would probably tell myself something very similar to what Josh just said. I think I would tell myself, the applause is pretty cool, the recognition is pretty cool, but the reward of Jesus and more of Jesus is worth it.
So good.
That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think I would say the same phrase, like it's gonna be worth it. I think that's what I would tell myself. Like, it's gonna be worth it. These next 6 years with all the, ups and downs, insecurities, fears, discouragement, it's gonna be worth it. So, I think that's what I would tell myself if I could go back. As we wrap up, I don't think anyone even left a comment, so we won't even do Q&A.
We got 13 viewers though.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say the comment has a bug. That's why. Oh, there's a technical error.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry for the technical difficulties. No wonder there's no one in the chat. But I want to end with this. Maybe I think we went longer than normal, but I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
I don't have to wake up for church and get ready. I could just wake up for church. So we'll just keep going.
You don't even need to wake up because you can watch the rerun later.
That's true. I could attend the 4:38 service.
Yes.
Because it's whenever I tune in. All right. What are 6 words per person? I mean, this might be hard, right? I think we're already nervous. I'm nervous.
Yeah. Person.
6 words to describe pursuit. This could be about pursuit, or this could be about yourself in pursuit. But just 6 words. All right, how about I'll frame it like this. When I say pursuit, what are 6 words that come to mind? There we go. I feel like that makes it easier.
We have to say all 6 at a time.
Can we do one at a time?
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I think that might help us spread it out and give
that
us
might help
something.
all of us. All right.
Yeah. All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll say grit, because I think even just hearing the oral history of everything today and just knowing, like, not only personally how much we all struggle, but even like PSAM as a leader of this ministry, like how you wanted to, you were discouraged at different times, but at the end of the day, 6 years now, you're still standing. And I just texted you this past week. I'm like, oh, you're still standing. And I was like telling him that in the region. And that only happens with grit. Like you push through. You got past the disappointments and discouragements, and here we are.
I mean, I'll do a funny interjection there. I remember when I was 18 years old, and I don't think I've ever told you guys this story. I was 18 years old. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm wrestling with whether I'm called into ministry or not. Right? Because ever since 17, I felt called, but I was like still waiting for like an angel to come and give me a note and tell me or something, right, from God. But I remember a pastor from Korea came, and he's like a prophetic guy or whatever. And then this is what he said to me. He said, "You are called, and God is going to use you, but you have to, I mean, I'm trying to like translate in real time. He says, you are called, God is going to use you, but you can't easily quit and jump from one thing or another. Maybe I'll go find that journal. It was a marble notebook that I had when I was 18, and I wrote that down, and I remember beating myself up. I'm like, wait, I do quit like all the time. I don't even finish a journal, like you know, like but you know, I just share that because I'm thankful, because I know that God is the one who developed that in all of us. I've ever told you that story. That's why he rebuked me. He says you can't easily quit.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the first time I'm hearing that story.
Yeah.
Me too.
So grit. I'll go next. I feel like a word that comes to mind is consistency. You know, there's a quote, I think it's by like Aristotle or whatever, but you know, I think about it when it comes to consistency, and he says, it might be one of those other guys, might be Plato or whatever. He says, excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. Right? And I feel like we've, in a lot of the things we've done, it isn't excellence, but it's the most excellent we could do.
Yeah.
So I think it counts. But I think the kicker is that we've been consistent. You know, whether the gathering had 3 people or 300, we've never had a gathering that big yet. I feel like the way we would approach it, the way we would lead it, the way we would go after the presence of God, the way we would worship, it won't look any different. So I think of consistency in that, but just, you know, even the story I share where I would just post every single day on social media, I would say the word consistency. I feel like that's what was required of us to make it this far.
That's good. I would say, first word I would say is friends. And I don't necessarily mean it inside the team, although we are, but I also think Pursuit is friends with a lot of people and with a lot of different ministries. And I don't think it's like partnership. I actually would describe it more as friends. And I remember there's other, like, you know, leaders who are leading movements and ministries that would say that about UPCM and would say that about Pursuit, especially during a conference. And so first one I could think of, friends.
That's good.
For me, it would be raw, because I feel like we're just our honest selves, and when we fail in front of everyone, and we're just like ourselves. So I think raw comes to mind.
That's good. Even this YouTube right now.
Yeah, my next word would be authentic. I think authenticity is huge, and I think I would pair that with humility as well, because I think every one of us, I think sometimes we have to be like, man, who am I that we get to do this, you know? And I think, man, like, yeah, and I think that's just a huge part of our DNA. We're just humble about that, because like we're just doing whatever God says, and we're just honored that we get to be part of what He's doing.
Yeah, that's good. I think the word that just came to mind for me is privilege. I think us being able to, like Josh just said, like for us to be able to do what we're doing, I think it's a privilege. For me to be able to be a leader, one of the leaders of this ministry, is a privilege. And I don't take it lightly that we get to do what we do, and just the doors that God has opened for us. It's not like, you know, we've made it or anything, you know what I mean? Like we still haven't won that lottery yet, but even what we're doing right now, you know, if I look back, it has been a privilege.
I think another word I would use is foolish. But I think if I could describe Pursuit, I think Pursuit is foolish enough to take God at His word.
Yeah.
And the world or people outside may describe Pursuit as foolish for doing so. But I actually think it's one of the things that describe us.
Come on, I love it. I'm a fool for Christ. Whose fool are you? By John Wilbur. Marked me that message. It's on YouTube. Go watch it, everyone. After you watch this.
For me, it'd be fun. I mean, I think it describes just our team, and I think even the way that we interact outside with other people as well. So
Yeah, it's on our IGTV if you want to know more about it. My word is marketing. I'm just kidding.
I would say inspirational. And what I mean by that is that not that our team is like trying to be inspirational all the time, but I think when people know our story and just how we came about and how we literally we're just taking faith and surrendering to God and our decision processing, stuff like that, I think that inspires other people to be like, oh, like I want to go after the dreams in my heart. Like I want to go after what God put on, spoke over me. So I think that inspires people. And I think we have testimonies of people like who know our story, and as a result, they're inspired to go after their thing and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm trying to think. I mean, is this a word? I don't even know if it's a word, but I'll just make it a word. Because it kind of sounds like grip, but the word I would use is still standing with a hyphen in it. Still standing. And I thought of that because, in the last 6 years, and this isn't like shots at anyone. Should we end the live? I'm just kidding. Like, this isn't shots at anyone, like literally. But in the past 6 years, we've had a lot of people come and go, even on our team. And, we bless them and we love them. Everyone has their own reasons and stuff like that. We've, at least for me, I've always been a leader that's open-handed with people and always wanted to send more than keep. But, in those times when people left and people have gone to do different things, we love it. We cheer them on. But a lot of those moments I felt discouraged. And I think a lot of the moments when I wanted to quit was during those times. But yet in the midst of it all, the image I got is like getting punched and knocked down, but not knocked out. And we're still standing. So that's the imagery I get. Like people walk out, people leave, and that's awesome. We bless them. Circumstances come for whatever reason, getting knocked down but not knocked out. We're still standing, and I think that's the word I would use because, who knew Pursuit would make it 6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even year 7 is a question mark. So
that's true.
No one's promised tomorrow, right? But I think the fact that we've made it even this far, still standing. God picked us up every time.
I'm gonna use the word flavor. I'm coming with all F words today.
F words, yeah.
I'm gonna use the word flavor because I think all of us carry unique, different flavors from each other. But I also think Pursuit has its own flavor compared to this region. And I think that's really what sets us apart too. We're barbecue sauce.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A sauce.
Hey.
I'm running out of words. But,
Me too.
But I thought of a word. It might be taken wrong. But weird.
I thought you were going to say sucks.
Sucks, yeah. No, weird because I feel like even the history that we just heard about Pursuit, it's just weird. I think just a lot of ups and downs, random confirmations, random words, and just like a random mix of people and events that we've been trying. So I don't know. I thought of the word weird.
Weird.
How many words have we done now? 3?
We're on our 4th round. We're on our 4th round.
You sure it's not the 6th round?
Yeah, I think that was my 6th word, I think.
I'm going to say the next word, pioneer. I think a lot of things that we've done and a lot of ideas that PCM has led the team through in terms of apparel, social media, even IG lives during this pandemic. Like a lot of it's pioneering. It's a lot of things that I don't know, just to be honest, I don't see other ministries doing in our region. And I think, we're just trying to do different things to get different people to encounter Jesus in different ways. So,
yeah, it's good. What were the words I used so far? Consistent, still standing. I made up a word. I'm running out of words too.
It's hard.
But when I
Last
think of
6 words is hard.
pursuit, what word comes to mind? Should we just make this the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Let's just make this last one. Then I'm gonna make it good. If I think of pursuit, I think of, man. Now that I say that it's the last one, I'm getting like all these words. But we'll make it the last one. If I were to choose one last word to describe pursuit, I would say I get the word expectant. That would be my final word, because even in our short history, I mean, we haven't seen the fullness of our dreams come to pass. We haven't seen the fullness of God's words come to pass. But I know who God is. I know he's faithful. I know his promises. And if what we have seen thus far is just a glimpse, then I'm expectant of what God will do next, of what he still has in store for us.
Wow.
And we are able to do just this with, honestly, like limited resources, limited people. Did I say limited resources? Just want to say that, pioneering is costly.
Yeah, say it one more time for the people in the back.
Yeah, pioneering is costly. You think the shirt was cheap to make?
Pioneering is expensive.
Yeah, right.
At Venmo at Pursuit NYC.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say, even with all of that, like I think we've mentioned multiple times, Josh mentioned it, everyone else, like there's so many things on our plates, but even with all of that, God was still able to do what he did. Then I'm just nothing but expectant of what's to come. And as a team, we always say the best is yet to come. So how can I capture that phrase in one word? I would say it's expectant.
That's good.
That's good.
I'm torn between two, but I'm gonna stick with this one. But I would say hungry. I would say we're expectant of God to do all that we believe he will do. But we will never stop hungering for more of him, for more of kingdom impact, for more of his presence, for more of influence. We won't stop hungering for more.
Yeah.
What was your other word?
Student, but it's kind of the same.
Disciple.
We gotta make it more Gen Z. Followers.
Zoomers.
Zoomers.
Yeah. My last word is it's student. No, I'm just kidding. It's oh shoot, I had it, but all right, I lost it because I said student. Oh, I
student is your word.
No, I remember now. I don't want to sound like I'll just say it, but like favored, because I feel like anything and everything that happened with Pursuit, it's only because of God's favor on us.
Yeah.
It's not because we're so spectacular. Like everyone's, wonderful, fabulous people, but it's not because we're so spectacular at what we do that we're where we're at. But I think it's just solely because of God's grace and favor on us.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. We're ending it with 4 because it's hard. But a couple more questions, because I feel like these are really good questions, and if we wait till next week, it won't even work. But
let's do it.
Someone asked on the thing, but where do you see Pursuit in the next 6 years? And along with that, what's a word that you want to use for the rest of 2020? I mean, once again, we're living in unprecedented times. We've been really doing a lot of online content during the season. But as we look ahead, what's a word that comes up for the rest of 2020? But along with that, where do you see Pursuit in the next 6 years? Yeah.
A word, as in a singular word for 2020.
Yeah. Because we're 5 months in, almost half the year. We're about to enter the final phase of the first half of 2020, which is wild. Yeah. And most of that has been like nothing but tragic, right? Like crazy things all over the world. But yeah.
I mean, I have a word, but it's anticipation.
Mm.
And I think it's like when you're anticipating something, you're waiting for something to happen. You're expecting something to happen. It's not kind of like, oh, is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? But it's like you're like anticipating it. Because I know there's going to be things that God is going to do through pursuit, even at the end of this year. I just don't know what,
Yeah.
like exactly what. But I think we're just anticipating a move of God to happen, in us and through us. What was the second part of the question? Or
Where
did
do
I
you see
answer?
pursuit? Yeah. Where do you see pursuit in the next 6 years?
Oh, in the next 6 years. I'm not ready for that part yet.
I think for me, for the word for the rest of the 2020, I think the word that keeps coming to mind is perspective. And I just think by the end of the year, I think the church is going to have greater perspective on what God is doing. I think we're so focused on our own church, our own ministries, our own personal lives, but I think this pandemic is really widening our perspective, if I can say. And I think we're going to we're going to be able to look at the bigger picture of what's going on. And so I think it's going to be encouraging in that sense. Like, man, kind of going along with what Kevin said, there's going to be anticipation as a result of a perspective shift. So I would say that. Where do we see pursuit in 6 years? Well, I guess this is a little bit specialized in the sense that, like, I'm speaking from, I guess, what I'm in charge of at Pursuit, but I really hope in the next 6 years that Pursuit will be a ministry that equips different churches in the region on healing. And I just had this thought today, but I would love to see in the next 6 years, I made it a 10-year goal, but to see 50 churches in our region fully equipped through Pursuit to go after supernatural healing. Yeah. So that's what I'm believing for. Yeah.
That's so good. Man. I think the word I get for 2020 is impact. And I think, just like what Dr. Reamer said yesterday during our IG Live, I think we're in store for great kingdom impact. And I think this time during quarantine is actually preparing us. So that's the word I have for 2020. Impact, personal impact, corporate impact, however you want to use it. And where do I see Pursuit 6 years from now? Actually, very, very similar to Josh. And I think it's just a personal desire that I have for Pursuit is I want to see a school established in Pursuit. It's a training school, mainly to raise up leaders that will have world impact, specifically for this region. Number one, to serve the churches in this region, but also to really make global impact. And so that's personally what I want to see in Pursuit in 6 years.
Come on, I love it. My word for the rest of 2020, I mean, if I could describe what the past 5 months have been like, I mean, I think there's so many words, but I want to focus on it in a positive way for the kingdom perspective. Not that's like whole encompassing. This is just my opinion. It might change. But I just thought of this now, but I would describe the last few months as pivot. So I think about, this is for the Kobe fans on our team. But when Kobe, I think there's that, I think of that one play where he's in that, he has the ball and he's on his pivot foot and he's deciding what to do. And what he ends up doing is that he throws it off the backboard to self alley-oop it to himself. But when he's pivoting, it's actually being on the offense. And in that moment, he could pass it to a teammate. I mean, he can't dribble it, but he could pass it to a teammate. But because it's Kobe, he passes to himself. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
But I felt like, so that's the imagery. I'm trying to paint a picture of to set up my word. That's the imagery of what the past 5 months have been like. And I think it's setting up offense. So kind of along the line with what everyone else has been saying, I feel like the rest of the word, I feel like the church is going to be on offense. Where from that place of pivot, there's so many things we can do. Because the original word I was thinking was attack, but I think it's because we're on offense. So that's what I want to leave. That's the word I want to declare. Maybe even prophesy over 2020 that we're getting ready to go from pivot to offense. So yeah.
You know how I know that's a word from the Lord?
Why?
Because you just use Kobe as an example. He would never have done that.
Yeah.
That's true.
I just thought of that play. You guys know what play I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And then 6 years from now, I feel like sometimes I'm very concrete with things, but I feel like most times I'm not. I'm more like creative, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. So Josh and Danny are probably the most concrete part of our team. So that's why they have like a specific thing of what they want in the next 6 years. For me, sometimes I'm like that, but most times I feel like I'm not. But for me, 6 years from now, I see pursuit still pursuing. That would be my answer.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's so opposite of how I function.
Yeah.
It would almost went over my head.
And he's like, what do you mean pursuing? Pursuing what?
Our ministry isn't pursuing, it's called pursuit. All right, Kevin, wrap us up for this one.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll make it personal too, just easier. But I think in 6 years, I'm hoping to be training the next person to do what I'm doing now, like leading the volunteers team, because I want one day for the volunteers team to have such a good system that that I just need to lead the leaders of it, but I don't have to lead it exactly itself, but just leading the leaders and to whoever needs to be shepherded. But yeah, something like that. It's a little lofty too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And then finally, to wrap up our birthday party, parties go long for a reason, I feel like. And because I feel like one of the common themes throughout the whole story and what compels us to keep going are the dreams that God has placed in our hearts, is what is dreaming with God, are the promises of God. What's the biggest dream you have for pursuit as a ministry? What's a dream that your heart is burning for as we celebrate the last 6 years and we look forward to the next 6 years, the next 60 years of what's ahead? And we'll keep on dreaming. So yeah.
A dream that you have for pursuit.
For me, kind of just what I shared in the previous question, just to see, just like churches going after healing in our region, and just to see churches equipped in that. But I guess the other thing that, wait, what was the question? Like, what's your dream for pursuit?
Yeah, like that's like burning in your heart.
Gotcha. Man, that's one thing. And I think the second thing for me is I would really love to see unity take place in our region.
Wow.
I would love to see different church leaders, pastors, congregants, through pursuit. I mean, we don't even have to say through pursuit. I'm just saying, just because we are part of pursuit, the medium. But I would just love to see this region collaborate and work together like never before.
That's good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I would love, whatever resources it is through pursuit, whether it be healing rooms or the speakers we get or messages, podcasts, like whatever initiative we're using, to be able to shift every believer's perspective on who God really is. Because I feel like a lot of believers growing up, we just have such a wrong perspective, and I think we all had to kind of be taught out of that wrong perspective. But I would love for God to use pursuit to make an impact even globally, to be able to shift every Christian's mind to who God is in the Bible and who they are, in God and, really have like the correct perspective.
Wow.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's good.
For me, once again, it sounds weird to say through pursuit because I think it's just so big, but I want to dream that through pursuit, that an entire generation will be discipled, that they will go from kingdom of darkness and actually cross over to kingdom of light and will be discipled to make kingdom impact.
Wow. Amen.
Yeah.
My biggest dream for pursuit is that we would I mean, I feel like pursuit to me is like so personal, and I guess for obvious reasons. I remember one time, I think I texted Josh about it. I don't know about anyone else, but this was a couple of years ago. I'm trying to remember what year it was, maybe 2016. 2016, God spoke to me and he said that what Ephraim and Manasseh was to Joseph, pursuit was to me, that they were the sons that Joseph bore in Egypt after he was a slave, and their names were, so redemptive. Like God remembered me in the wilderness and God made me fruitful, in a foreign land, like something like that. That's what those names mean. And based on my journey and my story, I felt like that's what God was saying to me. And I feel like because of that, there's so many like personal dreams tied to what pursuit is and what I feel like God has promised to me and to us as a team. But my biggest dream for this ministry and pursuit is that we would faithfully play our part, whatever that is, so that revival really would come. And if that means that we bring it, I would love that. If we're on the headlines of revival and selling out Madison Square Garden because people are getting, I mean, I would love it. But if our part is to simply set the stage for someone else to do it, we'll do it. Because I'll be lying if I said I don't want us to be the one to do it. But I just want pursuit. My biggest dream is that we would just play our part, whatever it may be, for revival. As long as we get to play a part, if our part is like being on the bench and waving the towel like Bill Walton for Larry Bird during the Celtic years, then let it be so. We just want to be a part of revival that is coming. And I do feel like at the same time, what God has for us is global. I'll share more with the team in our meeting tomorrow, but I feel like it's for global impact, but whatever role that is, that's what I would love for us to play, and for revival, like nothing else. Like that's just what it has to come down to. But thank you everyone for tuning in tonight, and thank you guys for going overtime on this. What are we doing? This
leadership roundtable.
Yeah, that leadership roundtable. Belated birthday party, and thank everyone for journeying with us, supporting us, believing with us, and believing in us, and ultimately, we're in it together. We'll only see revival together, and maybe. We can just, I don't know how to end it. I think we normally end with like a final recap type thing, right? But that'd be weird to do that now.
Yeah.
For this one. But another word I would use is grateful to God, to one another here, to our team, to everyone who has been a part of the team and has helped serve, and all our volunteers, everyone tuning in, and all the churches that have embraced us, and all of our friends that collab with us, partnered with us, people who've given, people who bought a shirt and never came back. We still thank you. But overall, we're really grateful, and maybe I could just wrap up this time and I'll just pray for us and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But Father God, we just Thank you, Lord, for our history. Um, Lord, I believe in the power of impartation. I believe in the power of laying on of hands. I believe in the power of supernatural, instantaneous healings and miracles and signs and wonders. But the thing that is most precious, God, is our history with you. So, God, as we look back, God, we're so thankful for our history with you, God, that it's not something that we could receive in an impartation. We can't receive it from someone else's story, but God, it has been birthed out of trial and pain, discouragement, highlights, valleys, mountains, joys, and through it all. And God, I just want to thank you for our history with you. And Lord, as we look back, we praise you, we worship you, we bless you, God. We thank you for the people who've journeyed with us, for all of the steps that they've taken with us along the way. And Lord, we thank you for what's ahead. And Lord, we bless your name for our history, God. We can't look back and not see your faithfulness. We can't look back and not remember how you've been good to us. And that if what you've done thus far is just the beginning, then Lord, we're so excited for what's ahead. And we just simply bless you, God. So Lord, we're ready to run. We're ready to be on the offense. We're ready to dream and to keep on dreaming. Lord, may we live a life of pursuit for the rest of our days. And Lord, let us see revival come. We love you, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next week online. Happy birthday, Pursuit.
Happy
Bye-bye.
birthday,
Birthday.
Pursuit.
All right, let me end the live stream. Dang.